listening to the Heroed Out podcast. To find out how to hear the latest episode or to connect with us, please visit heroedout.com. There you'll find ways to donate and share your story. Consumer discretion is advised.
Oh, God.
All right, here we are again, another episode of the Heroed Out show. I'm Kyle, your co-host, joined here by Nick.
Hello again. Welcome back, everybody.
You suck.
Oh, yes. All right, we're going to start this show off a little bumpy. That's okay. We're actually going to start a small mini-series here. We want to do a little episodes for you guys who are either thinking about getting into public service, police, fire, EMS, teaching, nursing, so on and so forth. We're going to follow that up with another episode of you guys that are brand new to the job. Come on in. You're trying to figure out your place in the world and trying to figure out your place in society, as well as this new team that you work with. We're going to do one on the guys that have been there a few years and a little bit of career growth and development, understanding how that's important for your career as it progresses. And then we're going to talk to the guys at the end of their term, and then the life after this decision. So we're going to go ahead and get this started right here with the people that are walking in the door. You know, you're looking to start going off in this field. So when you start looking into these types of jobs, I think that it's very, very important to do your research. You got to take your time. You got to make sure you're doing your due diligence to do a little background check. You know, do you have friends? Do you have family? Do you have so on? Who do you have that you can reach out to as a resource? And that's a really great place to start.
Absolutely. And we're not just talking about law enforcement or firefighters. This applies to teaching, military, any high stress type of job, really. And I mean, it's pretty universal, I think, in all fields. First and foremost, what I would suggest is evaluate your life, with your friends and your family, because that's ultimately the most important thing.
Yeah. And you got to bounce it off of them. You got to talk to them, especially if you have friends or family that are in that field, in that line of work. I think it's vitally important to run it by them. You know, if you have a cousin that does this job, like, hey, he's a teacher. Hey, what's it really like? I mean, I know it sounds great in theory. Hey, I work, 8-9 months and I have 3 or 4 off during the summer. But if you're not in that mindset that you can budget yourself according financially, or you don't have the ability to work a job where you have to work those specific type hours, or maybe it's not the personality for you. I think having that ability to bounce that off of you, you'll have somebody that works in the field that might say, this probably ain't for you, and I wish that a lot of people that you and I both have met in our careers, this job wasn't for them. I mean, I think they wanted to do it. I think Kyle always told me, and throughout the years he had trainees or, people that were training on our shift. He says that I would say, he seems like a really nice guy. And he would always tell me the same thing. What would you tell me?
My mom's a nice lady, but she's not a cop.
That's it. That's exactly it. Just because you're a really nice person, you might be a terrible fucking teacher, man. You might be just terrible. You don't have the patience. You don't have the mindset. You might not have the care and compassion you need as a nurse. I mean, the people that know you best will have the best advice for you and be able to tell you, hey, you might want to rethink this. This probably might not be for you. So reaching out to your family is probably going to be just as important. And second to that, what have you done to prepare for this? I know in law enforcement, they let you do ride-alongs. You can do ride-alongs with different agencies or, different sections. Have you done those? And I know that they can be new and exciting. You can learn a lot of things. You see the glitz and the glamour, but what you don't see is all of the struggles that go along with it, because not everything is always running and gunning. Not everything is always, you have these 3-alarm fires and you're throwing in all your gear and you're going, or not everything is on the ambulance. You're working, these codes, and you're really saving someone's life. So I think understanding that what the actual life is about is very important before you make that decision.
You got to ask yourself why, right? You got to ask yourself, why do you want to do this? Is it because it was a childhood dream, or you saw an episode of Cops, or, you saw a Navy SEAL commercial and it looked really cool and you thought, you could be that? If that's why, really sit and evaluate, because there's so much more to that. And especially if you're going to make a career out of it, there's so many things that, are going to play into that. If you're working the weekends, if you're working nights, what the stress entails, what's your family life going to look like 5-10 years from now? You got to really take all those things in, and evaluate.
Yeah. And even in the fire service, one of the reasons I wanted to go in originally to the fire department is it looked like fun. You could structure fires and, car fires, and but they are a fraction of a percentage of what you actually do. I can't remember the statistic now, but I know that in years past, it was something like 93% calls are medical, like 5 or 6% are other, and like 3% are like legitimate fire. So if you're not really big into medicine, if you're not big into the human anatomy and understanding how the body works and really have that care and compassion for helping people, the vast majority of the country that runs, fire and EMS out of one house, they don't do that very much. So it's a small portion. And is that going to be enough to keep you hanging on if you don't really like the other parts of the job? You don't if you're a teacher, do you like creating lesson plans? Do you like, reading and reviewing reports? Do you like grading papers? The ability, and I enjoy teaching. I love working with people. I like being able to train and see that click, that spark you get when somebody finally gets it. It's very rewarding.
Of course.
But do you want to deal with all of the other bullshit that goes along with it? So that could be in any field. So I think that's also a very important point.
Well, yeah, with teachers especially, it's, you work your 9-month thing. It seems cool, but there's a lot of teachers that I know. In fact, I don't know one that doesn't take home work, grading papers on the weekend, or in law enforcement, you're getting phone calls about stuff, especially if you get into supervisory positions. So it does eat at your free time, any of these, public service thing. And that's kind of what it is. It's a service, so there is sacrifices. You just need to know what those are.
Yeah. So let's start with shift work. So let's say you work shift work. The fire department, a lot of them are 24 hours on, 48 hours off. So it sounds like a great deal. And it really
sounds terrible.
No, yeah.
I would never do that.
So there's a lot of detractors for it. There's a lot of benefits, a lot of detractors. But the sad thing about it, I know a lot of people that work that job, they have to have a second job afterwards because the pay doesn't substantiate. So if you work this Monday, you'll be off Tuesday, Wednesday, work Thursday, off Friday, Saturday, work Sunday, so on and so forth. But a patrol schedule, like for us in EMS and police, you work every other weekend. So you work Monday, Tuesday, off Wednesday, Thursday, work Friday, Saturday, Sunday, off Monday, Tuesday. So you have, for lack of a better term, a long week and a short week. And those rotating shifts, again, seem great. But when you're on a 12-hour rotation, it's not 12 hours. It's not a 12-hour shift. And I think that's what you often miss until you start living it. Because let's say you work 6 to 6. Like I told you last episode or the one before, it was a good 30 or 45-minute drive for me to get to work. So if I have to be there at 6, old adage, if you're early, you're on time. If you're on time.
Right. Your 12-hour just became a 14-hour real quick.
Exactly. Your 14-hour day. And you got to take that for nursing too. My wife was a nurse. She worked 7 to 7. She was never home before about 8 o'clock every day. And a lot of the time she'd be at work an extra hour late, doing a report, making sure she had all of her documentation taken care of. And then she has that 30 or 45-minute drive home. So you have to take all those facts into consideration and how that actually affects you. Like you were talking about with teachers, that's important to know that your day may end at 2, 2:30, 3 when the bell rings, but your job isn't over. There's a lot of work still to be done. And I think that until you've walked a mile in those shoes, you don't understand what that life is actually like.
Yeah, the 24-hour shifts at the fire department, I could not do that. One of the biggest detractors for me not going into the military, and I have some regrets of not, but the biggest one for sure was not being able to sleep in my own bed at night. Like that was a big deal to me. If I go on vacation or something, if I'm gone more than 3 days, it sucks. So, to do that as a firefighter, twice a week, I couldn't do it.
Yeah, and I'll tell you one thing also that with the fire department was hard. If you weren't living within your means, anytime you did overtime, you're gone for 2 full days. So you've taken your entire life and you've given that responsibility to someone else. You've given that to your spouse, your girlfriend, your mother, whoever. Not just for the day-to-day, but if you have kids, you're not seeing your kids.
Especially small kids.
Yeah, especially small kids. You're going to miss out on a lot. And there's a lot to consider by doing that, but those are the things that you need to really think about before going into certain lines of work. But this doesn't necessarily mean this line of work, but any career you're looking into. I know a lot of my friends that are linemen, they work a lot of hours. They are constantly gone chasing storms. They're always working, and they do a very, very great job. They do a very necessary occupation, but for the money they make, it's not worth it for me to be away from my family, and that's one thing you have to consider is your balanced time with not just your family now, but what's your family going to be like in the future? Because this is not just a job; it should be a career.
I've talked with a lot of guys that have left, that 3 to 5 year range, and some have left to go be plumbers or do whatever. But a lot of the stuff that I was hearing from them, that they would leave because they figured, hey, after 3 or 4 years, I get my feet under me, I can slide into a Monday through Friday, and either that didn't pan through or they went back to shift work. Like, that's always going to be a possibility for you to be on shift work. Whether it's, 10 years or 20 years from now. So don't go in with an attitude like, hey, in a year, I've seen other people do it. And well, it's great, but it's not.
Yeah, no, you try to gut it out, but you don't make that decision. You don't control that. And I think another thing too is, what can this job give you, and what can you give the job? What are you putting in? What's the job going to reward you with? And some of my notes I've, sketched out here. Like, if you're going to this and you were like a plumber or an electrician or you were a carpenter, do you have any other sets of skills? Like, what else do you have where you and I got in so young? This was it. I don't have any of those other skills to fall back on, where I got hired, and I've seen a lot of people come in and out of the industry. They come in, they are like, bro, how do you live on $38,000 a year? This is terrible. He's used to making double, triple, quadruple that as a plumber. Just roughing in new houses for construction, man. They're making a lot better money. So you really got to consider that. And I know you had sent me something not too long ago about finances. A guy was on a radio show, and he was looking for some financial advice. And they said, hey, look, I'm looking to take this job, but I'm going to take about a $30,000 a year pay cut, but I'll have a retirement. So that you've really got to make sure you understand the long-term effects of your decisions. So I think those are very important. But if you have these other sets of skills, are they marketable? And if you're just not happy, that's fine. You cannot be happy in what you're doing, but you really got to really do some soul searching, but you can't do it by yourself. You have to do it with your loved ones.
Even the guys that think they're going to be career-long guys in or girls, whatever, in any of these professions, like I've told people now for probably a decade, because I didn't do this myself, find a backup plan. You're always, one car wreck, one torn knee, one accident away from not being able to do the thing you thought you were going to be doing the whole time. So if you don't prepare for that, I'm not saying go, job hunting or anything, but have something, some skill set, some ability to go earn a wage outside of whatever field you're getting in. I think that would be good advice for anybody.
No, and it would. And I've kept up my my paramedic since 2006, 7, whenever I got it. So we're talking about 15 years now. I've kept it up, and everyone says we don't use it. Why? And I always tell them the same thing. If I lose a leg, odds are I'm not going to be a cop anymore. Right. If I'm not going to be a really fast one, I'll be half as fast for you mathematicians out there. But fuck you laughing at. So. No, it's just something you have to have a fallback plan. You have to have that, but it's not necessarily a fallback, but this isn't going to be forever. This isn't going to be until you die. It's a job for now, and you have to start planning for the future before you even start. I think that's very important.
With any career, it's there has to come to an end. I mean, obviously nobody makes it out alive. So your career is going to come to an end, whether it's by your own hand or you retire or you quit or you get fired, whatever. It's going to end. So plan for that. It might not happen, in the time frame that you think it should or want to. But if you got something back to fall on, like that's your insurance policy. It
is. And you always have to be amendable. You always have to be willing to accept change. You always have to understand that just because this was the road you were on doesn't mean you can't take a left-hand turn and go down a different road. And I think that's actually a really good point. So I know we've mentioned a couple times so far, just finances. And I know this isn't a financial episode, but you need to ask yourself, how much money do you need to live? And is this job going to provide that for you? And do not count on overtime always being there. There's too many people I see in this job. They'll tell you, oh man, I made 30, 40, 50 grand in overtime. Yeah, but that's the time you spent away from your family. You only get so many minutes. You only get so many seconds of your life. And do you want to be doing it, giving it to a job in trade for money,
Yeah, that's all you're doing as an hourly worker anyway, trading time for money. So if you're not making a good wage, but you're making a good salary or, you're making a good end of the year profit, that means you put a lot of hours in. I remember working over 1,000 hours of overtime. for at least 2 or 3 years straight. I mean, that's 5-6 days a week, 12-hour shifts. I mean, I was running the gun and having all the fun and stuff like that. And then, you know, kids hit, and that's kind of, I think, where I took a turning point.
Yeah, was that a need or a want, though?
It was more of just a want to, you know, I was chasing out being ambitious and joining SWAT and, you know, whatever. So it was kind of like slave to the job.
Yeah, I think that's another thing also. These jobs, a lot of them, they're, and I can't speak for a job like nursing or teaching because, to be honest with you, they're saints. I couldn't do it, but it's not a real job, man. I've had real jobs. I've done real work, and real work sucks. Like, you know, building fence through a swamp or
being a roofer.
Yeah, pounding in nails on a roof in the summer in Florida. I mean, all that stuff sounds terrible to me. So when I got to say, okay, I got to ride around in a car and catch bad guys, like that sounds like fun. And I think there is a level of addiction that happens with people that are new. And that's what you see. And I think that's why shows like Cops, you know, or Live PD or any of these other shows where they've spent a lot of time not glorifying, but showing you the funner side of it. It's like, man, that's not a real job. That's playing. You know, I'm playing worker, but I'm getting paid to be a cop.
Literally playing cops and robbers. I think it is a little bit addicting. I think you get addicted to the adrenaline, you know, of running code or whatever, you know, chasing down bad guys. It's cool and fun. Like, that stuff wears off though. It's almost like you become immune to it. So it takes more and more and more. Like, you can go skydiving now, my pulse won't change.
Yeah.
You know,
and I think that's a really good point, especially for the people that are looking to go in. That wears off. There'll be a time, excuse me, there'll be a time where the tones will go out for a structure fire. The tones will go out for, you know, you'll get called for a priority rollover incident, or you get called for robbery in progress. And you're like, fuck yeah. Like, you know, like this is it. Like, this is the shit.
There's the big one.
Yeah. And then there'll come a time where you're like, fuck me. God.
About to take a nap.
Damn it. Yeah, I didn't want to deal with this shit. You know what I mean?
Hell yeah.
Is that for our firefighter friends?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I figured.
Yeah. That's why it takes so long for them to get there. And they got to make sure that, you know, cops clear the scene.
Yeah,
first,
yeah.
So they got time.
Park the truck in the way, right?
Yeah.
So, no, all that stuff wears off, man. It'll go away. It goes away. And that's when you have to realize why it's important to discuss the real life with family and friends, because that's what you're going to be dealing with. That's what you're going to have in front of you. So for you guys that are looking to get in, just take the time, talk to your friends, talk to your family, talk to your loved ones, do your research. Don't make a hasty decision. Another thing too, explore your options. Talk to different agencies, different departments, because in Florida where we are, you can work 20 years at some agencies, all the way up to 30 years before you're eligible for retirement. That's huge. You're talking about 30 additional percentage of time working just to retire. But there are perks. You know, is this agency one where there's opportunity for growth? Is there opportunity for lateral movement or even upward movement? Or are you stuck in a very small agency where there's minimal opportunity outside of your entry of what your normal assignment is? So all those things are vitally important. But wrapping this intro up today, I do want to say, you know, we would do a special thanks to a good friend of ours, Richard LeCase. He owns Specialty Sportswear over here in Ormond Beach, Florida. He makes our shirts. He not a paid sponsor, didn't ask us to do this. I love Richard. Richard's coming up on his retirement, I believe, in June of this year. If you guys would please reach out to him, tell him we sent you guys to see him. There's no kickback. You guys save no more money, and I get no money from it. But he's just a guy who spent 30 years in law enforcement. We really appreciate his service, and he's a jam up guy. Him and his brother both. That's Special Tees, TEES, sportswear.com. They're over here in Ormond Beach, Florida. Tell them Kyle and Nick sent you.
Yeah. Again, they'll probably charge you extra for that, but you know, we won't be getting the kickback. But we just genuinely want to help out other first responders, other public servants, because there is life after law enforcement. There is life after teaching. And to end it, I will say that, you know, this is Mental Health Awareness Month. Nick and I both have lost friends to suicide and stuff like that. So if you ever need help, obviously, there's resources, a suicide prevention hotline, 800-273-8255. You can call me and Nick any time of night. The number's posted on the website, like it'll ring through our phones. Honestly, like that's a big thing to me. So if you guys ever need help, there's no shame in it.
No, there's not. Don't be afraid to ask. But you guys stay safe, and we'll see you on the next episode.
See you guys.
Thanks for listening to the Heroed Out podcast. For the latest news and episodes, be sure to visit us at heroedout.com or on our social media. Be safe out there, heroes.